Welcome to an overview of the Athenian democracy investigation. In this investigation, you're trying to figure out how to respond to the question, was democracy in Athens a good form of government? Today, as you begin learning about democracy in Athens, instead of memorizing names and dates from a textbook, which is really hard and not particularly interesting, you will instead read and hear several different perspectives. You'll discuss with your classmates, and then make your own decision about what it all means. Read, inquire, write lessons are called investigations. Throughout each investigation, you're looking for evidence to figure out how to respond to a central question. You'll notice that our investigations never say, answer a central question. Instead, you'll hear us ask you to respond to a central question. That's because we believe there is not one right answer. There could be multiple answers. So we want you to respond to the question with evidence. Read, inquire, write investigations support you in building a case for your argument using evidence and reasoning. Over time, this kind of work will strengthen your reading, writing, critical thinking, and problem-solving skills. In this investigation, you're trying to respond to the central question, was democracy in Athens a good form of government? Our central question examines ancient Athens. In this picture, you can see a current picture of the agora, a gathering place. You'll learn more about the agora in this investigation. But if this is a picture of the agora today, how do historians and archaeologists know what happened in ancient Athens? It's important to say it's hard to study the ancient world. Much of the literature written by ancient Greeks was lost. Many of the monuments and buildings of ancient Athens have disappeared or are in ruins. But we have a few clues. For example, there is writing on the pieces of this cooking pot. The writing indicates that this pot may have been held as evidence for a trial. These are the kinds of small pieces of evidence that help archaeologists and historians learn about ancient Athens. You will use this type of evidence during this investigation. Now let's turn towards your task for the investigation. An 8th grade teacher is holding a writing competition about this central question. Was democracy in Athens a good form of government? Students have submitted their arguments and the teacher has narrowed the competition down to 2 students, Taylor and Cameron. Now the 8th grade teacher needs your help in deciding which one offers a weaker argument about whether democracy in Athens was a good form of government. Your task is to read the students' arguments and consider the sources and central question for this investigation. Then consider the students' positions. Pick the weakest argument and critique it. Convince the teacher to reject the weakest argument. Include evidence for your argument and reasoning about your evidence. Remember, a critique is a type of argument that responds to someone else's argument by pointing out what might be wrong with it and why. Our investigation will guide you step by step in developing your critique of the students' arguments. Let's review those steps now. First, you'll begin by making connections between important dates. For example, you will examine a timeline that shows some important dates for this investigation. You'll also learn more about what we do know about Athenian democracy to help you make connections. Next, your teacher will provide you with different sources to read about ancient Athens. You'll use these sources to determine which student's argument you believe is the weakest. To help you read these sources, your teacher will provide you with this bookmark. The bookmark tool will help you understand, analyze, and evaluate sources about democracy in Athens. The bookmark prompts you to make annotations or detailed notes about the sources. You'll do this as you read and after you read. For example, in this source, you can see that a student has circled and underlined important information related to the author, Plato, and the time period when it was written. The student also made notes about what those circles and underlined phrases mean. You will do the same on your sources, and the bookmark tool will guide you. Making these annotations is really important because they will help you remember key ideas in the sources. This way, you don't have to try to remember everything or have to reread everything later. Instead, these annotations will make it easier to determine which student's argument is the weakest. In step 3, you will weigh the evidence presented in the sources about ancient Athens. You will begin by sorting the sources based on your understanding. Then you will construct and discuss the arguments based on what you have learned from these sources. In step 4, you will read and analyze a mentor text similar to the type of critique you will write about democracy in Athens. A mentor text is a sample of writing that shows you one way to organize and write a critique-style argument. It includes important parts such as claim, evidence, and reasoning. It's a good example of the way you can structure your own response about Athenian democracy. Just remember that the mentor text is not exactly what you'll write, and it is not a source. The mentor text is one example of what your essay might look like. Next, you'll use the planning graphic organizer. The graphic organizer is like a roadmap for your essay. It helps you organize your ideas about democracy in Athens, and it will prompt you to give evidence and reasoning to support your argument. You will use all of the work you've done so far to help you develop this roadmap. You'll look at your annotated sources, you'll determine which student's argument you think is weakest, and then make decisions to plan the essay you'll write. Then in step 6, you're ready to write your essay and respond to the central question, was democracy in Athens a good form of government? Be sure to use the sources you have read to write your response and choose the weakest argument. We know it's sometimes difficult to start writing. That's why we also include a useful language tool. You can look at this tool to choose from examples of how to start your claim, evidence, and reasoning. Finally, after you have spent some time writing, pause to use the reflection tool. The reflection tool will help you review what you have written so far and set goals for your next steps. The reflection tool reminds you about what to include in your argument. Let's review the 7 steps you'll take throughout this investigation. First, make connections and build background. Second, read and analyze sources using the bookmark tool. Third, weigh the evidence. Fourth, analyze the mentor text. Fifth, complete the planning graphic organizer, deciding on the argument you'll make. Sixth, use the useful language tool as you draft your essay. And seventh, review and improve your essay using the reflection tool. As you work through the investigation, make sure to talk with your classmates and others who can support you as you learn about and respond to the central question, was democracy in Athens a good form of government? Good luck!